You've just finished something you're proud of, a true work of art, and right behind the satisfaction comes a quieter thought. What's stopping someone from just taking this? It's one of the oldest anxieties in this business, and it's also one of the most misunderstood. But there is a protection working for you, free of charge, and it's called copyright. Today we're going to answer that question properly. What copyright actually is, what it protects, and what it doesn't. We'll discuss how it protects you as a creative, how it protects everyone else's work, and where there is legal room to build on other people's work. Copyright not only protects you as a writer, but it also provides an invaluable trove of material you were probably unaware was yours to use, free of fees and cost. So let's get into it.
The first question we need to ask is, what's copyright and what protection does it offer? When an author writes a book or a screenplay, it's protected for their entire life. And that protection continues for 70 years after their death. The term is slightly different for works developed by corporations. They're granted an additional period of about 95 years. Think about Disney and some of what they've developed. 95 years of protection. To understand this more deeply, copyright is the ownership of whatever you put down on paper. It's that simple. There's nothing you have to file for or officially declare. It simply happens when you take an idea and put it directly on paper. For something to be covered by copyright, it must be written down. It can't just be a vague idea, and it can't be something you merely mention to someone. It has to be written and printed out, hard copy in hand. Do that, and you have copyright and proof of creation. You don't have to register a screenplay for it to be covered by copyright. As soon as you start writing it, it's protected. That said, the Writers Guild of America offers a registry service, currently around $10 to $20. You submit a PDF of the screenplay and they log it in their database, establishing a record. What does that prove? It proves the date you wrote it and the words you wrote, but it's not copyright. And in a court of law, it doesn't carry the same weight. You can also submit your screenplay to the US Copyright Office if you want. It costs more and is a legal tool, but remember, your script is already copyrighted. Submitting it to the Copyright Office only serves to document it further. One interesting note, they don't read your screenplay. They simply accept it, log it, and stamp it as copyrighted. The material inside may not be original. You could have inadvertently taken material word for word from something like Gone with the Wind. The Copyright Office wouldn't catch that. Those details would surface later in court during a legal dispute, and it'd then be shown that you don't actually hold the copyright. So registering with the Copyright Office or the WGA creates a paper trail, which can work to your advantage, but if the material has been plagiarized or infringes on someone else's work, that stamp won't do much good. Even if you skip this step, your copyright still exists based on the date you wrote the document, as evidenced by the file's timestamp. If you have any concerns, you should print out a copy of your document and any documentation that shows the date it was created. Keep that hard copy on file just in case. Copyright doesn't last forever, and with good reason. 70 years after an author's death, their work enters the public domain and becomes available for you to adapt, remix, or build on. In 2021, The Great Gatsby entered the public domain, meaning you can now write a sequel or prequel, use its characters, and even use Fitzgerald's title and text. It's available to anyone. You'll notice that when something falls into the public domain, adaptations often follow. The Wizard of Oz, the book, not the movie, is now in the public domain, and we've seen numerous reproductions and variations since no one owns the underlying property. But here's where you have to be careful. When you go looking for public domain material, go back to the actual original source, not somebody's copyrighted adaptation of it. The 1939 MGM Wizard of Oz movie added a lot that isn't in L. Frank Baum's book. Its songs, its specific visual design, and famously, the ruby slippers. In the novel, they're silver. MGM changed them to ruby because red popped better in early Technicolor. That was MGM's creative choice, their expression, and it's still protected. So you're free to write your own Wizard of Oz story pulled straight from the book, but the moment you borrow something that only exists in the movie, like the ruby slippers, you stepped out of the public domain and into someone else's copyright.
If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't
As I mentioned, public domain status begins on January 1st, Public Domain Day. This happens regardless of a work's original publication date. Each year, works by the greatest authors in modern history enter the public domain, including those of F. Scott Fitzgerald, H.G. Wells, Sinclair Lewis, Gertrude Stein, and Agatha Christie, among countless others. This isn't limited to writers. Musicians' works also enter the public domain. However, don't confuse a song entering the public domain with a recording of that song, which may not be in the public domain. Always confirm that the version of a property you're using is actually in the public domain. The Star-Spangled Banner is in the public domain, and anyone can use it and even make a recording of it. But you can't use Whitney Houston's iconic 1991 performance. That recording belongs to Arista Records and is protected. If you hit a creative dry spell, take a look at what's out there in the public domain and consider reviving an old work of art, a movie plot, or creating a sequel to an old bestseller. The public domain is an absolute treasure chest of projects and ideas just waiting to be brought back to life.
There are two excellent resources for tracking down public domain material. The Center for the Study of the Public Domain at Duke University has a wealth of links and information about what's newly available each year. On the 1st of January each year, they produce a huge list of materials new to the world of free use. This includes movies, books, artwork, music, and much more. Another great resource is the Internet Archive, a massive catalog of public domain material, including music, television, movies, and art. This site also has non-public domain materials, so be careful and double check anything you pull from there. Another source of material not covered by copyright is the Creative Commons. These include images, sounds, and other forms of expression that aren't old, but they aren't covered by copyright either. For the most part, they were created to be shared for free. It's genuinely useful to read the fine print. Much of the music, photography, and artwork you'll find labeled free to use online is released under a Creative Commons license. And it's worth understanding that Creative Commons isn't one license, it's a whole family of them. Some allow commercial use, some don't. Some let you modify the work, some don't. Some only require that you credit the creator. Others require that anything you build from it be released under the same open terms. None of that is a reason to avoid Creative Commons material. It's a legitimate and often excellent resource for student and independent work, but it does mean you have to read which license applies before you use something, rather than assuming Creative Commons is a single blanket permission slip. History isn't copyrightable. Nobody owns it. You can write about any historical event, even events others have already made films about. Write a movie about World War II, Dunkirk, or the D-Day invasion. These are free for you to use because they happened in history. But do your research. And by that I mean hit the history books, not the movies. You should never assume that because you saw something in a movie about a historic event, it's true and that the characters are real. Hollywood is a horrible history teacher. Hollywood changes history to fit its stories all the time, and if you use those tweaks and changes, you might find yourself using copyrighted material that's only loosely based on history, has been altered, and is now an original expression of events that is protected by copyright. For example, Saving Private Ryan covers D-Day, and the events of D-Day are free for you to use, but you can't use clips from the movie because they are not actual historic documents. They're Steven Spielberg's artistic expression of D-Day events, not actual history. Also, Saving Private Ryan is a lesson in not believing everything you see. The 6 core characters, including Private Ryan, are all fictional, and using them in your story would constitute copyright infringement. Do your research. Historic events from centuries ago to a few days ago are free for you to use. Even something like the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster is available because it's a historic event and the people involved are historic figures. News operates the same way. It's simply history reported today, and once reported, it's available for anyone to use. The events of a war or an insurrection could still be unfolding, but as they happen, they become history and free to use.
Here's one I love. All government publications, the millions of photographs and documents the government has produced, are also available to you without attribution or licensing, since as an American taxpayer, you're a partial owner of that material. That includes the vast majority of what NASA has produced, which is one of the great underused treasure troves for filmmakers. Decades of still images and motion footage, all free to use without anyone's permission.
This is a perfect moment to show you a short film called Robbie. It's a work of fiction built entirely from public domain NASA imagery. There isn't a single frame of original footage in the short film, and all of it was pulled from NASA's library. While the short film is built from public domain images, the finished product itself isn't public domain. The moment a filmmaker selects specific NASA images, arranges them in a particular order, and builds an original story and narration around them, that arrangement becomes its own original expression. And that's exactly what copyright protects. So even though you or I could walk into the NASA archive tomorrow and pull the very same images the filmmaker used, we couldn't legally copy Robbie itself. The raw images remain free forever. The specific story told with them, the way Robbie tells it, belongs to whoever made it. You're free to go back to that same NASA archive and build your own film, your own story, from the same or different public domain images. You're just not free to make this one. That's the distinction this entire lecture keeps circling back to. Not the idea, not even the raw material, the expression.
Hello. Well, I'm not sure who was watching, or even if you can understand me. I hope that you can. There is not a lot of time left for me. My name is Robbie. I am from a planet called Earth. It is part of a 4 billion-year-old solar system. I was first created in 2011. At this time, I was a robot worker for the North American Space Administration. They called me the Robonaut. I do not know much about this period. I am told I performed manual tasks and was controlled by a man whose name was Brad. I became self-aware in 2032 when NASA refurbished my CPU. This was a period when technology advanced quickly. They had robots growing on farms. Anyway, they gave me a mind. But the mind they gave me was different to the organic brain of humans. While I can remember everything I experience, I can only visualize simulated environments. It doesn't look like real life. I have always been a very emotional person. I would always get very upset when my friends would go away into space. But I found comfort in praying for their safe return. Out of all the religions, I chose to be Catholic. Then one day I heard the team saying that they would be sending me to space. On December 21st, 2037, I left planet Earth. There was a great bond amongst the crew. Everybody worked really hard, but we had many fun times too. Like when Kathy would play her flute to me, or watching Craig drive around the planets. He was from Australia. But eventually everybody left me. I was left all alone to maintain the spacecraft. I often wondered what my friends were doing back home. Did they miss me? I still kept in contact with my close friends. Kathy still played her flute to me, as well as her fiancé Paul. But in 2045 something drastic happened. I lost all contact with Earth. I could not communicate to anybody. I was stranded in space. My imagination went wild with what could have happened. If only I could re-enter the atmosphere, land in the ocean and swim to shore. Then I could see what happened to all my friends. According to my calculations, I have been floating in space for 6,000 years. I have spent the last 4,000 years inside a fantasy world rich with personal mythology. In this world, I am king of a tribe of space robots. We go around the universe on adventures fixing things. Everybody loves me in this fantasy, and I am good to my people. We have a great relationship. everybody is happy. We fix a lot of problems and learn from each other. But my fantasy world was not good enough. It was planet Earth that still captured my heart. I would try and visualize what Earth looked like, but nothing ever looked the same. So I eventually gave up. I am now at the end of my battery life. I am not sure if I will wake up, but that is okay. I have lived a great life. I have had an incredible time and done the best I could. I am just happy I got to be a part of this all. I was alive. I have decided that I want to use the last of my battery out of standby mode. I want to spend my last few moments looking over my home. If you do find this video, please wake me up. I would be fascinated to meet you and understand you. But for now, I am just want to sit and look at my home one last time before I fall asleep for FDS-ADF.
One particularly interesting area of copyright law concerns ideas. An idea is a quickly communicated, memorable thought, maybe an interesting premise or a juxtaposition of events. But at the end of the day, it's just an idea. If I pitch you a log line, aliens come from outer space and want to become high school teachers. That's just an idea, and ideas aren't protected by copyright law. A high concept log line is no different. An idea must be developed into a full screenplay to be copyrighted. Vague statements like, "United we stand," or "Life's a bowl of lemons," are even further from anything copyrightable. This creates a real risk for writers. Sharing your idea with friends or other writers who aren't on the buying side of Hollywood carries a genuine risk that they could take it and run with it. And if they do, you generally have no legal recourse. It was just an idea. But you don't need to worry as much about studios, producers, or agents, the implied buyers. It's understood that they're meeting with you specifically because you have something to sell. So an unofficial contract is implied. If they take your idea and cut you out after that kind of meeting, you do have some legal recourse. Scènes à faire. This French term means scenes that must be done. Common scenes, so standard, they appear in nearly every movie in a genre. The reluctant hero, the car chase, the ticking clock, the femme fatale, the conflicted hero, the climactic showdown. Nearly every film borrows structural elements from films that came before it. So using such a scene generally gives you a bit of a safety net. Not permission to copy a scene shot for shot, but permission to use the underlying convention because it's been done many times before. If someone accuses you of ripping off their screenplay, you can often point out that the scene in question is a common convention found across many films, not something original to their work. This cuts both ways though. Just as it protects you when borrowing familiar elements, it also means others can borrow familiar elements from you. Did you invent your movie idea from scratch? Probably not. Storytelling has existed for thousands of years, and most movies made in the US draw on the same Aristotelian principles. Everything you put on the page has, in some form, been done before, which offers you both protection and vulnerability. Fair use allows you to use copyrighted material without permission in specific circumstances. Most often, criticism, commentary, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, or research. A teacher can use images or recordings to teach a class. A journalist can use images for reporting or criticism. A student can use copyrighted images in a scholarly thesis, citing fair use as justification. Fair use is likely insufficient to protect you if you're lifting a scene into your own screenplay or film, since that use typically doesn't fall within any of the protected categories. One notable exception is documentary filmmaking. Documentaries generally qualify as educational, critical, or journalistic, giving filmmakers more leeway to use copyrighted images, film clips, or music and claim fair use. If you plan on making a documentary, you should visit the CMSI, Center for Media and Social Impact website. This site was created to help documentarians navigate best practices for fair use. The fair use test weighs several factors. First, the purpose and character of the use. Nonprofit, educational use is safer than commercial use. Second, the nature of the copyrighted work. Some material, like stock photography with an imprinted watermark, tends to fall into a legally gray area and is risky, so it's best avoided. Third, the amount used relative to the work as a whole. Using brief clips or stills from a film like Gone with the Wind in a documentary is generally fine, but using too much can look like an abuse of the doctrine. Fourth, the effect of the use on the potential market for the original work. If your use would meaningfully diminish the market for that work, your fair use claim weakens. While we're on the subject, let's kill 3 excuses I hear every semester, because none of them is a substitute for a fair use argument. I only use 10% of it. There's no such thing as a safe percentage. Copyright law doesn't work like a math problem. The question is what you copied, not how much you changed. You can change 95% of something and still be in trouble over the 10% that matters most. I gave them credit. Attribution is good manners and the right thing to do, but it isn't a license. Writing music by the Beatles in your end credits after using an entire song doesn't make the use legal, any more than announcing you borrowed someone's car without asking makes that legal. And I'm not making any money off it. Whether your project is commercial is one factor courts weigh, not a blanket exemption. Student films, YouTube videos, and nonprofit projects are still subject to copyright law. None of these 3 excuses hurts your case to mention, but none of them wins it by itself. Sometimes clearance is the only path. You have to ask the rights holder for permission, and that comes with a price tag that can range from a few $1,000s to hundreds of thousands, depending on the property. The cost of clearance is often too high for a screenwriter or young filmmaker, but there are clever ways around it. If the underlying story is rooted in history or another public source, you can build something very similar to the property you wanted to adapt without needing the rights at all. So ask yourself whether you truly need that specific book or title. If it isn't especially well known, you can often tell a similar story in your own voice using recycled, non-copyrightable elements. Unless it is such an incredibly specific property, there are usually inexpensive workarounds. Acquiring the rights to well-known novels is often prohibitively expensive because studios compete aggressively for them. A more realistic path? Pitch the underlying story idea to a producer or studio, get them excited, and let them pursue the rights themselves. Be aware, though, that if all you bring them is an idea, they're under no obligation to include you going forward, because ideas aren't protected by copyright. Fan fiction has existed almost as long as novels themselves. When movies arrived, writers began creating stories using existing film characters and worlds. The internet simply made it easy to share those stories with a global audience. If you write fan fiction purely for yourself, there's generally no issue. But once you publish it, especially if money is involved, you may be infringing on someone else's copyright. Rights holders also have an interest in protecting how their characters and brands are portrayed, and companies like Disney actively enforce those rights. The same rule applies to franchise spec scripts. Writing a new Star Wars, Die Hard, Marvel, or Rocky screenplay means using copyrighted characters and settings without permission. Kept in your desk drawer, it's essentially fan fiction. Once you publish, circulate, or attempt to sell it, you're using intellectual property you don't own. If a studio bought the script, they would own it entirely, not you, and you could also face a copyright infringement claim. The bottom line is simple. Don't write franchise specs. Spend that time creating original material you can actually own and sell. You don't have to look hard online to find a variety of fan-made films using a myriad of copyright-protected characters and images belonging to major studios. Which brings up the question, if fan films are technically copyright infringement, then how does a company like Bat in the Sun get away with making these incredible superhero films? The fact is, they're doing exactly what I've been telling you not to do. They're writing stories and making movies starring Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, and other famous copyrighted characters. They're putting them on YouTube, where millions of people can watch them. Some of the videos are monetized, some have sponsorships. Today, they're even using AI to create visuals that rival those of a small Hollywood studio. So, why aren't Warner Brothers, Disney, or other studios suing them? The answer is both simple and incredibly important. First, let's separate two ideas that people constantly confuse: legal and tolerated. Those are not the same thing. Under US copyright law, the owner of a copyrighted work has the exclusive right to create or authorize derivative works. A derivative work is any new work that's based on an existing copyrighted work. A Batman movie is a derivative work of Batman. A Spider-Man story is a derivative work of Spider-Man. That's true whether you spend $200 million making it, shoot it in your backyard with friends, or generate every frame using artificial intelligence. The production method doesn't matter. The underlying intellectual property does. So, if Bat in the Sun production doesn't have licenses from DC or Disney, then yes, those films are potentially actionable as copyright infringement. Notice I said potentially actionable. That doesn't mean they're automatically going to lose a lawsuit. It means the copyright owners would have the legal right to challenge the films if they chose to. But here's the key. Copyright owners are not required to enforce every infringement they discover. They have options. They can ignore it, they can send a cease and desist letter, they can issue a DMCA takedown notice, they can negotiate a license, or they can file a lawsuit. And doing nothing is also a choice. And that appears to be what's happening here. Why? Probably because Bat in the Sun isn't hurting the brands. If anything, they're helping keep these characters in the public conversation. Their films are professionally made, respectful of the source material, and aimed squarely at existing fans. Nobody is choosing a 10-minute Bat in the Sun film instead of buying a ticket to the next Batman movie. They're not replacing the official market, they're celebrating it. From a business standpoint, Warner Brothers and Disney may simply decide that the free publicity is worth more than the trouble of shutting down the films. But that's a business decision, not a legal precedent. Warner Brothers could wake up tomorrow morning, change its corporate policy, and start issuing takedown notices for every unauthorized Batman fan film online. The fact that Bat in the Sun has been making films for years wouldn't stop that from happening. There's another point worth mentioning. People often assume that because something is on YouTube and has been online for years, it must be legal. That's a dangerous assumption. YouTube isn't a copyright court. It's simply a hosting platform. Content can remain online because the copyright owner hasn't objected, not because it has been declared lawful. So what lesson should you take away from all of this? It's a lesson that applies to every screenwriter. Never mistake the absence of a lawsuit for the presence of legal rights. Bat in the Sun hasn't found a magical loophole in copyright law. They're operating in a space where, at least for now, the copyright owners have chosen not to enforce their rights. That's very different from having permission. While this conversation seems to suggest breaking the rules and apologizing later is a reasonable approach, that apology could be very expensive. Legal action against people who infringe on copyright not only includes a cease and desist, but can also result in serious financial penalties. If you have creative skills at the level of Bat in the Sun Productions, you should focus on creating original content and impressing the studios with your story and technical skills.
What are you? I'm Batman.
Contrary to popular belief, you don't need someone's permission to make a movie about them. Facts are free to use, and if you write the truth, you generally can't be successfully sued. This is especially true for public figures, celebrities, politicians, and historical figures, whose lives are part of the public record. If you veer into unsupported conjecture or accusation, though, you risk defamation or libel claims. Writing a biopic grounded in acknowledged, verifiable facts is relatively safe. The risk grows when you start inventing claims with no foundation. If you want to write a biopic, a reasonable path is to write and pitch it. Then let a producer or studio pursue any life rights they want from the subject or the subject's estate. Studios like having that underlying material, even though it isn't strictly required. The right of publicity protects living people and deceased celebrities from unauthorized commercial use of their name or image. This is why you can't legally sell, for example, a Marilyn Monroe t-shirt without her estate's permission. Doing so would constitute commercial misappropriation. Film and television, however, are expressive works protected by the First Amendment, not merchandise, so they're not subject to commercial misappropriation claims. That means biopics about public figures are generally free and clear. The right of publicity doesn't prevent someone from making a movie or TV series about a celebrity's life. In our screenwriting classes, we focus on writing spec scripts. A spec script is a complete original screenplay you write entirely on your own, one you own outright as copyrighted material. The term spec is short for speculation. Anyone who wants to purchase your spec script must negotiate a deal with you, typically buying 100% of the copyright. When studios do this, they tend to become the legal author of the work for copyright purposes, even though you wrote it. As the original writer, you'll typically retain some financial interest through residuals and attachment to future projects based on your material. But selling a screenplay is somewhat unique in that you surrender 100% of your copyright to the buyer. But what if a studio hires you to write a movie for them? They commission you. That's called work for hire, and it's different. A studio commissions you to write a specific project, whether based on your pitch or on their existing property. You're compensated for your labor, but you never own any part of the resulting work. You have no legal claim to it and no say in casting, edits, or direction, unless the studio chooses to grant you input as a courtesy, not a legal right. If you write with a partner, or are thinking about writing with a partner, give that collaboration some serious thought. Writing alone means the copyright is unambiguously yours until you sell it. Writing with a partner creates a collaboration that brings real complications, shared credit, and income. There is an upside to collaboration, as your partner may bring valuable skills or a sense of story you don't have to the project. And work done via collaboration tends to move faster. But inevitably, one of the partners will either realize or assume they are doing most of the work. I've yet to see a collaboration where this is not the case. My advice to you is to write alone when you can for maximum control and financial upside. For a project to count as a legitimate co-authored work, both writers must have contributed written pages, not just ideas or notes, and roughly comparable amounts of work, so there's no later dispute over who really wrote the screenplay. Once a work is co-authored, both writers are co-owners of the copyright, but importantly, only one co-author's consent is needed to sell it. If your writing partner agrees to a deal you believe undervalues the project, they can sell it anyway, and your share goes with it. You have no legal veto. A written collaboration agreement that spells out how credit and profits will be shared is strongly advisable when you bring on a real writing partner. Ideas remain unprotected by copyright. Anyone outside a legitimate buyer relationship could, in theory, take your pitched idea. But because meetings with studios, producers, and agents carry an implied, in fact, contract, they're meeting you specifically as a professional buyer, you have some legal protection there that you wouldn't have when pitching to a friend. To protect themselves from lawsuits over similar ideas already in development, many companies ask unrepresented writers to sign release forms before hearing a pitch, essentially waiving your right to sue if they later produce something similar. These forms are typically enforceable and difficult to challenge. Whether to sign is a judgment call. Reputable, established companies are unlikely to need to steal your idea and are generally safe to sign with. Smaller or unknown companies warrant more caution, since you're taking on real risk for comparatively little upside. It's worth noting that litigation isn't the only path anymore. Since 2022, writers who believe they've been genuinely wronged have had access to the Copyright Claims Board, a small claims tribunal within the U.S. Copyright Office. It's a voluntary, lower cost, faster alternative to federal court, with total damages capped at $30,000, $15,000 per work for statutory damages. It won't help with a stolen idea, since ideas aren't copyrightable, but for a genuine infringement of something you actually wrote and registered, it's a realistic option for a writer who could never afford to sue a studio in federal court. A title alone isn't protected by copyright. It's too short an expression to qualify, much like a name, slogan, or phrase. However, titles can gain trademark protection once a film becomes known and the title acquires secondary meaning. Lesser known older titles carry much less risk, since there's no established audience association to infringe. The Motion Picture Academy, MPAA, maintains a title registry for films in production and can deny a title that's too similar to an existing one, though this is a professional/industry consideration, not strictly a copyright matter. Films outside that system, student films for example, aren't bound by the registry, but could still face trademark claims if they use a famous title. Importantly, an unproduced script's title has no protection at all. It only gains protection once the film is made and reaches some level of public recognition. Music has two separate copyrights. A song isn't one copyright, it's two. The musical composition, the melody and lyrics as written, is owned by the songwriter or publisher. The sound recording, that specific recorded performance of the song, is owned separately, usually by the artist or record label. If you want to use an existing song in a film, you generally need clearance from both sides, a sync license to pair the composition with visual images, and a master use license to use that particular recording. This is why the same song can be cheap to license in one recording and expensive in another. You're not just paying for the song, you're paying for the specific performance. AI-generated material is copyrightable only when a human has actually shaped it. The US Copyright Office has taken a consistent position, upheld by the courts, that a work generated purely by AI from a prompt with no further human creative control isn't copyrightable because copyright requires human authorship. Material that a human meaningfully selects, arranges, edits, or substantially modifies can qualify, but only the human-authored portions are protected, and the AI-generated elements typically need to be disclosed in any registration. This applies just as much to an AI-generated illustration or song as it does to AI-assisted prose. It's a live and evolving area of law, so anyone leaning on these tools as part of their creative process should expect the rules to keep developing. This is a good spot to review some of this lecture, and I'll do it in a way that serves as a real-world copyright lesson. I'll do that in the form of a music video, partially constructed by AI. The lyrics originated from my own lecture notes, so they're based on my original creative expression and are protected by copyright. AI then helped transform those ideas into song lyrics and generated the melody, arrangement, vocals, and performance. Under current US copyright law, my human-authored contributions are protected, while the purely AI-generated musical elements occupy a much less certain legal space. The visuals you'll see are assembled by me from a combination of public domain images, Creative Commons licensed works used according to their licenses, and copyrighted images used under the doctrine of fair use for educational purposes. While I don't own the copyrights to those underlying images, my original selection, sequencing, editing, timing, and integration of all these elements into a single educational presentation represents its own creative contribution. In other words, this music video isn't simply one copyrighted work. It's a collection of different types of material, each with its own copyright status. Some elements are fully protected because I created them. Some are free for anyone to use because they're in the public domain. Some are used under Creative Commons licenses. Some are included under fair use. And some AI-generated portions may not be protected by copyright at all. That's exactly why copyright can seem complicated. Every component has to be analyzed on its own. So as you watch, don't just listen to the song. See if you can identify which copyright principles we've discussed are at work throughout the video.
Ideas are free.
Write them down.
Write them down.
5 plus 70.
9 plus 70. Then the world can play.
Write the next classic
Starting here.
today.
Write it down.
That's where copyright begins. Find your own voice.
Don't live somebody else's dream.
Write it down. Turn imagination into art. The next great story.
Write it down.
Write it down.
We've covered a lot of territory in this lecture on copyright, and we're really only at the beginning of the topic. The takeaways from this conversation should be the following. You are protected. From the moment you write it down, the US Constitution protects your work. Ideas are not protected, so be careful when sharing your thoughts if you think your idea has enormous potential. To avoid any conflict, avoid using anything that is protected by copyright in your screenplay or film. Seek out free and fair use materials in the public domain and Creative Commons. If you get the opportunity to sell a screenplay, get hired to make a movie, or sell artwork for a larger sum, bring a lawyer into the negotiations. The cost of legal help now far outweighs the potential losses of a poorly negotiated contract. If you want to take a deeper dive, there is an easy-to-read book written in clear, accessible terms called Creativity and Copyright: Legal Essentials for Screenwriters and Creative Artists by John Geiger and Howard Suber. It's available on Amazon for about $15. Both authors have extensive experience in Hollywood on legal and screenwriting topics, and it's a strong reference for understanding what you can and can't get away with as a screenwriter or entertainment creative.